In this 5th grade of Mali B1 public school, students are trying to learn English. They are still in the initiation, but at the same time enthusiastic to embrace a new alphabet, a new diction, or new terms. Unfazed, they left for an hour of immersion, with the attention and the concentration required. Meanwhile, their peers in the public school of Agonje seem more relaxed. They're right in the middle of the French class and practice their grammar, spelling and conjugation under the watchful gaze of their mistress, who keeps an eye on the application of the lesson of the day, the passive form. In both Libreville schools, the high numbers of repeaters concern officials of the institutions. In Gabon, the repetition rate in 2015 is estimated at 36%. In addition, for nearly a decade, nearly 25% of students in a class do not complete primary school, and only 11% of them reach the 5th grade of primary school without repeating.
L'échec scolaire est un problème national.
School failure is a national issue, except that each school is trying to address it with their own means. At the beginning of each year, we try to set some objectives to reduce school failure at its most. When I got here, 2 or 3 years ago, the repetition rate was beyond 40%. We were at 47% of repetitions. Last year, the repetition rate was at 43%. For this year, we intend to reduce it significantly so we can reach 15 to 20%, and why not 2%?
Les 15-20% et pourquoi pas 2%.
J'ai à ma charge 836 élèves.
I'm responsible for 836 students. This is my first year here. When I look at the archives, the failure rate of students for the entry exam to the 6th grade was at less than 20%. And 316 students repeat the 5th grade for their first time, which is a scourge that affects all schools, including the public school of Agonje.
Les couches scolaires, c'est-à-dire que toutes les écoles, voilà, y compris l'école publique d'Agonje.
In fact, according to current statistics, the average of students leaving school without qualifications in the European countries is about 13%. In developing countries, particularly in sub-Saharan Africa, 20% of children drop out of school early in the primary. In some countries, such as Benin, school retention has deteriorated in recent years. The profile of students out of school varies considerably between countries.
C'est une réalité partout, et tous les pays.
This is a reality everywhere, and all developing countries are affected by this phenomenon of school failure and dropout.
Au Bénin, si on peut considérer qu'en matière d'accès,
in Benin, if a commendable effort has been made in terms of access through gratuity actions that have been taken in terms of retention, there are still several issues. If you take a cohort of 100 who enroll in the primary cycle from the first year, you will have 70% of them who can finish the primary cycle. So for this line, you have dropouts of around 30%.
Arrive à franchir, n'est-ce pas, la fin du cycle primaire. Alors vous avez sur la ligne là une
This goes on like that until the first cycle of the secondary, where in this cohort, which started at 100% in the primary, you will hardly have 20%, and when you go to the second cycle of the secondary, this is a complete disaster. School failure is out there. It is conspicuous, and you can see it.
C'est totalement la catastrophe. Donc l'échec scolaire est là, il est patent et ça se vit.
Pour mon pays, le Mali, si vous suivez.
For my country, Mali, we have been in the news for 3 years. Mali has been going through a period of insecurity. There are upheavals. Most of the country is not controlled by the government of Mali. Instead, it is run by drug traffickers, and this has almost emptied some areas. Schools are closed. And when you talk about school dropout, you mean there were schools. They were not even schools. The dropout is related to the fact that the kids, they go to the silent areas. They overcrowd schools, which used to have large numbers of students. Even before the crisis, school dropout and failure were matters of concern for all the population, parents, and education authorities.
Donc,
Au Mali,
The last monitoring report on education for all of UNESCO stresses that the goal of education for all has not been achieved despite the immense efforts made by countries including sub-Saharan Africa. To resolve the crisis of learning in Francophone countries, the CONFEMEN, the Conference of Ministers of Education of French-speaking countries and governments, has chosen as a topic of its 57th ministerial session held in Libreville, school failure and dropout. The goal is to make an inventory to review all the factors related to the issue and propose solutions to address all the challenges.
On se dit au niveau de la CONFEMEN, qui est un cadre d'échange, de réflexion et de partage.
At the CONFEMEN, which is a framework for exchange and sharing, we said we have to think about this topic. With the global movement Education for All launched in Dakar in 2000, our government's focus on access to school for all.
Alors, une chose est d'avoir accès, une autre chose est d'apprendre et de réussir.
One thing is to have access, another is to learn and succeed. Statistics show that several pupils drop out of primary school before they finish it without qualification. And for those who go to college, few of them go to the 8th grade. So if we look at the statistics, at the proportions of dropouts, this is worrying, especially for the education system in Africa.
Many national and international reports have focused on factors related to failure and school dropout. In northern countries, the decision to drop out of school is often the result of a long evolution and cumulative frustrations caused by academic failure and relationship problems with peers, teachers, and parents. Risk factors can be grouped as personal, family, and school. In the southern countries, some factors are individual, like little interest in school, lack of motivation, health problems, or malnutrition, while others are associated with schools such as remoteness, absenteeism of teachers, inadequate reception facilities, and inadequate classrooms. So the dropout is not the effect of a single factor, but a long process of several interrelated factors and causes.
Pour vraiment lutter contre le décrochage scolaire, il faut avant tout
To control school dropout, we have to work on didactic factors within schools, not to forget that students come from families and settings with some specific features, that they are with teachers with their own features also, and with school settings with their own settings. The didactic factors are the only factors that can impact directly school dropout. So we have to work directly with the schools, with close external partners to analyze directly the aggregation of risk factors, which are not the same from one student to another. Identify them depending on the students and also work to mitigate these risk factors.
School dropout has become an international priority. The 44 member states of the CONFEMEN all show commitment to improve the educational success of their population. Each country therefore attempts to thwart the phenomenon of failure and dropouts through the implementation of policies aimed at family and school environments, as well as reforms of education systems, including programs and alternative training opportunities. Many actions are taken here and there for this purpose, to fight against these scourges that can have adverse effects in the long term.
Le Gabon, en s'appuyant sur le plan stratégique Gabon émergent.
Gabon, which is geared towards reaching its strategic objective, Emerging Gabon, an offshoot of the social project of President Ali Bongo Ondimba, is resolutely committed over the last few years to coming up with solutions for quality education for all, to enable our country to have the necessary skills for its socio-economic development needs. To illustrate this, we can mention, without being comprehensive, the development and the adoption of the Law number 21/2011 of February the 11th, 2012, relating to the general orientation and education, training and research to endow our country with a legal and institutional framework for a modern education and in compliance with international standards that meets the needs of all the Gabonese and promoting lifelong learning.
Et favorisant l'apprentissage tout au long de la vie.
Il faut savoir qu'en Côte d'Ivoire, depuis le mois de septembre, l'école est obligatoire.
In Côte d'Ivoire, since the month of September, school is mandatory for all children between 6 and 16 years. So parents are compelled to have their children enrolled, but the state is entitled also to create an environment so they can complete their studies. This has been made possible through reforms in the primary. For example, we introduced IT and entrepreneurship in schools.
Donc nous avons eu des réformes curriculaires.
So we did some reforms in the primary school curriculum. In the secondary, we plan to manage children who are either not willing or not able to continue their studies up to the 8th grade or beyond. We will give the opportunity to these children for a shorter cycle or go to a workshop in a professional center or in vocational high school. That's why the government is initiating an ambitious program of vocational education in Côte d'Ivoire.
Est en train d'initier un vaste programme de développement de l'enseignement professionnel en Côte d'Ivoire.
The 57th ministerial session of the CONFEMEN has been a give and take meeting, an opportunity of intense exchanges of experience among the 25 states which participated to two-day conclave. The proceedings was sanctioned by strong recommendations on how to meet the challenges of failure and school dropout in the countries of the Francophonie. The logical continuation of the work of the 57th ministerial session and in the context of the implementation of the 2030 framework of action, the theme of the next meeting of the ministers of CONFEMEN was chosen. And for the 58th session, the focus will be on the promotion of preschool education in the education system.